But in this case, that task management was not working for me. And so I started with Trello, and that became a way for us to kind of update things in real time. The mobile capabilities were much better, and the sort of creative flow and what we could make it look like was a lot more user-friendly and more adaptable to what we needed. So that became the best thing. And we also use, like I said, Loom to kind of onboard people. And the great thing about that is, you know, anytime I came up with a task that I just like, I don't want to do this again, I would just record myself doing it, and then it became somebody else's job to do once I had people working with me. You know, some of the other tools we use Calendly also, which if you are even if you're a true solo and you're not using some sort of scheduler app and you're meeting with clients, I would say that saved me immediately probably 5 to 10 hours in every week, because I wasn't looking through my calendar, trying to find gaps for people, sending it to people, trying to record and then put it in my calendar once they responded that they could do it. It did all of it for me. That's my number one thing. If you don't do anything else, if you're not already using that, I would recommend something like that. You can set up different appointments for all kinds of things. So we have a workflow for our consultations. I have one that's just a 15-minute phone conference, because I won't take unscheduled phone calls from clients at this point. I don't have time to do it, and so they must schedule an appointment with me. And so we have one for that. And we just have template emails that we can send right from the case management software with the links already embedded. Anytime like we have a workflow for if we get an appeal. So either the client tells us or we get denial notice in the mail, we have this workflow that automatically sends them the email, and then it goes on our Trello board for the appeal deadlines to make sure that we're following up with the client. We've calendared when that deadline is going to run, and we make sure that they have their appeal appointment with me. So yeah, there's a lot of things work in concert, which is great, but you know, just because that works really well for me doesn't mean it's going to serve your needs. So think about it, and just because it works well for you at this time or works well for us at this time, it may not in the future. So the other thing that I would say is sort of an overall theme is that you should really not be afraid to try things. And if it doesn't work out, like nobody knows that you did it and then changed it later, you know, like it's okay to try stuff and then change your mind in 2 months because it's not what you want it to be. Yeah. So I think, you know, and that again comes from my like perfectionist tendencies. Like if I'm going to do it, it's got to be great the first time. We should never need to change it because I'm like, I did it so well. Like, why would you ever need to change it? That's silly, and it's not very helpful. And the more you can get used to trying things and maybe having it, you know, maybe falling on your face with it, the better you'll be at this work.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Yeah, go ahead with your question.
May I get a recommendation from each of you on what is a good tasking program? Because I have had difficulties finding one that I think acceptable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My question to people whenever they ask about like legal tech is, what do you want it to do for you? Because that's going to change how I answer that question. I really needed something that was going to interface well. If I was mobile or if I was at my desk, I needed something that other people could get into and see very easily, because that's who I was working with. I'm not sure if you were here yesterday, but before I used Trello, I really felt like I was being run by my email inbox and just constantly reacting to things rather than being proactive. And setting up the different boards on the Trello, it gave me a way to organize all of my like important deadlines now lived somewhere. And I wasn't just worried about like, am I missing something for a client? Because we disciplined ourselves to record those things. Because the other thing is, you can have as many great standard operating procedures, you could have the perfect ones, and if nobody's doing it, it doesn't matter, right? So some of this requires an amount of self-discipline for yourself and also for your staff in order to actually do the things that you write up. But for me, Trello was really great for that. It is super adaptable to whatever you need. It is not very costly, and it allowed my staff to be able to kind of remotely engage in the things that I was doing and tag me on stuff and say, hey, did you do this? We also, there's a capability, integrates with Slack. So like if there's a deadline, like we have it set up for if a deadline runs for something, and we usually set our deadlines about a week before they actually run, it sends a message to Slack like, hey, this is due, and everybody sees it.
Yeah, very good. Matt, any suggestions for tasking systems? Or?
I think about when I get to technology, yes, functions are important, but also, I mean, every month the landscape is a little bit newer and there's more competitors out there. I oftentimes think about like, what do I want to look at time and time again every day? Is this functional for me? Do I feel like it is easy to work with? Is it easy on the eyes? Because if I'm going to be looking at this for maybe hours of a day, I want that. So that's what comes to my mind. It's not hard to sit down and vet a bunch of options. Let me give you an example that's not tasking, but ties into Leanne's question around tech. At one point, we were just hosting all of our policies in a folder on Dropbox Business Class that's HIPAA compliant and ethically approved by Eric Cooperstein. And it's all right to have to go in there and be like, all right, what's our policy again? Handling how we're processing accounts receivable. Let me find that Word document and open it. 2-3 years ago, we got sophisticated and started our own private wiki. It's called Slab. It's highly searchable, so all you gotta do is put in accounts and it brings up all those posts that include accounts receivable or the Word accounts. You don't even have to rely on the table of contents, especially now that with a 15-person firm like we have, where we're also trying to dump all of our casework and case law and practice knowledge in there around spousal maintenance negotiation and a bunch of other stuff. It's dense, so the searchability is important.
Matt,
But-
can you explain what your own wiki means?
Yes. So, if you're familiar with Wikipedia, it's basically a database encyclopedia. And so you can actually have your own set of encyclopedia for all of your systems, your operations, all of your policies, all of your best practices or templates or whatever else. It's not hard to have that private website that just you and your staff have access to. And that's what we set up with Slab. In the week or 10 days prior to moving forward with Slab, I tried Notion. I tried that other one with all the emojis. I was starting trial accounts on multiple wiki options because I wanted to see both functionality, but then also a little bit of, for me, the aesthetic of what it's like to live with this, and is this going to make sense to the rest of my staff? So that's a little bit of there. Hitting on what Sarah said, Sarah's got 2 virtual VAs, whereas I've got 15 people. So we're accustomed to hiring and having to worry about onboarding staff. And while she uses Loom, we use a private YouTube channel. But one of the great things out of the pandemic is we had to start training people over Zoom. And pretty quickly we were like, we should be recording this. And then later on, as we added other people, we just had them watch certain clips, and it didn't require my executive assistant to take more time away from her. Just like, here's your viewing list for your first week on the job. Sorry, it's all television, but you were raised in the 90s, so you'll be fine. And then lastly, as it kind of relates to tasks, but namely checklists, we use Slack. And to Sarah's point about feeling like just because you're trying something, you don't have to worry about absolutely committing to it. When we got into Slack, 18, 19, no, 17. Like, I'd heard about it. Like, this kind of piqued my interest because at the time we were using Clio. We were trying to like maybe passing messages in Clio, but then there's a lot of emailing each other and then calling each other. Did you get my email? And I'd heard about Slack, and I told my executive assistant, you and I are going to open up this Slack account and we're going to use it for 2 weeks. And then if it works well, we'll roll it out to the rest of the staff. That was a Monday morning. Wednesday morning, I was rolling it out to staff because the opposite of trying something and then deciding not to use it is trying something and realizing, oh my gosh, we can't wait another 10 days. This is so good. But for those of you that don't know Slack, just imagine an app that's like your texting app on your phone, except instead of me texting Sarah and then having a separate thread for me texting Heather, we're all in on this together, but the different threads for us are different cases. So on the Jones divorce, all of our conversations are organized and our staff doesn't have to worry about missing out on anything or losing an email. It's all organized so that we do better casework in that regard. And then we can have additional channels for our firm management type stuff.
Can you share documents in Slack?
Yes, you can.
So it's just like Teams.
Yeah, it includes it. You can do video huddles as well. You can leave audio messages for one another. You can even leave video messages for each other, like a screen share. It allows you to implement with other softwares, one of which is Manifestly. Manifestly, you can pre-order checklists in there, and then as you're progressing along, like we might do phase 1 is our term for pleadings, serving and filing divorce opportunities. So we'll have a whole checklist for that. And then between the attorney and the paralegal, they can check things off. And then once that gets completed, then we know we're ready for phase 2, the ICMC. That way we can stay on top of it. We can delegate responsibilities, and it's a click of the button. So if you're using Slack, or you've got reason to do so, you can use that Manifestly feature maybe manifestly is available for Teams or something else.
Yeah, a lot of legal tech integrates with other tech and creates, like, that could be a
We
whole
can do a
couple
whole day.
hours on itself.
Yeah.
Right, well, yeah, well, and Todd Scott and I are talking tomorrow, and I actually have some from screenshots in our presentation about like our Trello boards, because here's the thing is we can tell you guys all this stuff all day long, and you can get all these great ideas, and everybody writes everything down, and then if you go home and you don't do anything with it, then it's not helpful to you, right? So just take one thing and then just build that. And having like one standard operating procedure written down for client intake, or what to do when a new PNC calls from the time that they are a PNC until they become a client, even just documenting that.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Lutz. I'm the founder of Atticus Family Law. We do help divorcees in the Twin Cities, from Wayzata in the west to Stillwater in the east, across the whole metro, have success in their divorces by having divorce serve as a springboard towards their next best life.